Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. How about those two young AFC South quarterbacks that we saw go in an absolute duel in NFL Week 1? I'm talking about CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. I want to talk about those two quarterbacks, and I want to talk about what happened in this football game because it was one that went down to the final minute. With that being said, I don't want to do too much more talking. We got a game recap. CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson engaged in an impressive duel as the Texans secured a last-minute 29-27 win over the Indianapolis Colts. This is a game between two interdivision rivals. You have the Colts, Texans, Jaguars, and Titans. So with the Colts and the Texans playing, this game will also have future implications. Basically saying, okay, will the Texans sweep this division rival or will they split with the Indianapolis Colts down the line? So this game mattered. Even though it's week 1, this is a bigger win than usual. Now, talking about some stats. CJ Stroud on the day, 24 of 32, 234 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, 30 carries, 159 yards, and a touchdown. I'm gonna talk about Joe Mixon's impact on this football team and why I think they leaned on the running game versus the Indianapolis Colts. Adding Joe Mixon, I like what Devin Singletary did for this team last year. You still have Damian Pierce, but I think adding Joe Mixon adds a different dynamic, and we're gonna get to that further down the line. Nico Collins, 6 receptions, 117 yards. Going to the flip side, Anthony Richardson, 9 of 19, didn't have a ton of completions, but when he completed, those were some big time passes. 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. We're going to talk about that as well. On the ground, 6 carries, 56 yards, and 1 touchdown added in there. Alec Pierce, 3 receptions, 125 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now I want to open this up. And like I said, we're going to start this off with the quarterbacks, talking about that duel that we saw right there. And then I think there's a lot of things that I want to touch upon in this game that we saw yesterday that just says, okay, these are two good football teams, and I think this was an exciting one to watch. In terms of CJ Stroud, looking at how poised he is just all the time on the football field, whether it's stepping up in the pocket, understanding when to make the timely scramble, how to go on 3rd and long, 2nd and long, how to get to the first down marker, when to make the perfect throw, how to, scramble, reset your feet, and keep your eyes down the field. I think when we look at guys like CJ Stroud, he's not going to run as much as Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, but I think his mobility is kind of what you see with Joe Burrow. Those guys using their mobility, their pocket presence within the pocket to say, okay, I'm not trying to get all the way downfield and just become a runner. I'm trying to get outside of the pocket and extend the play. We saw so many throws on the run in this game. You had one where he got outside the pocket, Tank Dell sitting there wide open. That was early in the football game. But like I said, just extending the play. And as a defensive lineman, this is saying, okay, I got to stay in my pass rush lane because if I get outside of my quadrant, my coach is going to be in my ear the entire game. Is an edge rusher. Now, how can we really attack the passer? How can we get to the quarterback if it's saying, okay, if I get too far upfield, he's going to go out and now he's making a big play. That puts my safeties, corners, linebackers, just so many things that happen just because of the passer, the playmaker that CJ Stroud is. And we saw that in this football game. Also, making some very timely throws. And then you look at Anthony Richardson. He made some big time throws in this game, but it's still that roller coaster, man. I'm bought into Anthony Richardson. I would take the stock. I'm banking on the upside. I look at the arm. I think his mind is there. You look at how he processes information through the football field. You look at, okay, how he commands the line of scrimmage, understanding, okay, where are my hot routes? Where are my blitzers? What is the protection scheme? I think in terms of that, he's doing all of the right things. It's just sometimes connecting your arm to your body and looking at how he's making the right reads, but sometimes the football is too high. Sometimes you're pushing it too wide. Sometimes, just like the interception that he had, you had a wide open crosser. It's not a bad read, but if you're inaccurate with that football and the safety is behind your wide receiver, now you're giving him an opportunity to make that play. The little things. And then you look at it and say, okay, Adonai Mitchell running scot-free down the football field. There was 2 big-time throws that he could have made to Adonai Mitchell where Anthony Richardson just puts too much air on it. And those are the types of things where you say, okay, if he connects on those throws, he had 212 yards. even with some big time misses. Adonai Mitchell, we're going to talk about him as well. Having a big time game, he's still a rookie, second round pick for the Indianapolis Colts, but he was getting open versus this Texans defense. And if you add in those throws, you're easily looking over 300 yards. You're easily looking over 300 yards from Anthony Richardson. And I think that's the type of thing that's going to be the next step in his progression. Now, when I talk about Anthony Richardson, for me, it's saying I have to understand that this is essentially still his first year. Only played about 4 to 5 games in his rookie year, got hurt, missed the season with the shoulder injury. And now I think for some people, it'll be easy to say, okay, Anthony Richardson, show me what you got. Because he was injured that first season. I think we still have to have some room for pause. We still have to be a little patient with Anthony Richardson. Just because this is essentially his second year, let's understand he's still getting his feet under him. He's still trying to get acclimated to the NFL. Understand, when in college, didn't have as much experience drop back throwing the football. He had a lot of reps and a lot of snaps. But at Florida, they used him as a runner. This was not the type of passing in terms of volume that we're seeing for the Indianapolis Colts. So I think Shane Steichen, he has a great coach that's going to help him develop. You talk about the design run game. You talk about the RPOs. He had 56 yards on the ground. So just understanding how to pace the football, be more accurate with the football. And I think those are the types of things that he's trying to work on. We may not fully see it this year, but if he continues to grind, continues to get after it, then we're going to start to see that leap in progression. We're going to start to see that development and consistent accuracy from Anthony Richardson. Talking about this game, though, it was really one that went up and down. I mean, first, I think when we looked at it, the Texans had some momentum, then the Colts had some momentum. And in the second half, outside of 2 punts, the Texans punted once and the Indianapolis Colts punted once. Outside of those 2 punting drives, touchdowns on every other drive. You either had a field goal, a touchdown, and then on the final drive, the Texans just ran out the clock, so that drive doesn't count. But I want to start from the beginning because you look at the Colts, they go for it on 4th down early. They don't convert. CJ Stroud, they get the football. He comes back. He converts a 4th down. He's slipping. He's still looking upfield. Like I said, when he gets outside of the pocket, he's poised. He never loses his cool, makes a big-time throw. And then on the Colts' second drive, they go up 7-3, and it's all accredited to, once again, Anthony Richardson. I also want to shout out Alec Pierce, but Anthony Richardson on this play, he makes a 60-yard pass, and it's a bomb down the football field to Alec Pierce. Just looking at that throw now, the field was in poor condition. You had CJ Stroud slipping up. You had receivers slipping up. Anthony Richardson was slipping on the football field as well. But this was another one of those plays. He slips up in the pocket, throws the football off his back foot, and still is able to connect with Alec Pierce on a 60-yard pass down the football field. Now, for Alec Pierce, I think adding him along with Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell now in his rookie season, I think Alec Pierce, whatever he gives you, you're kind of saying, okay, we're really going to go as far as this takes us, because you're banking on, okay, Adonai Mitchell, he was your 2nd round draft pick. You're expecting big things out of him. We saw what Josh Downs did last season. You just paid Michael Pittman. But now having Alec Pierce, we were wondering, could he take the next step as a deep threat? We saw what he did at Cincinnati with Desmond Ridder. Now it started to click in this football game. Had 2 big-time catches down the football field. Had over 100 yards, so I really like that. But Anthony Richardson, they go up 7-3. Then you have the Texans. They come back. CJ Stroud throws a breathtaking throw to Nico Collins. It's another one of those bombs down the football field. Got a play action pass. He just launches it. Nico Collins comes down with the contested catch. And I think even though the Texans took a 12-7 lead early in the football game, looking at it, how they were really trying to game plan against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have some dogs. You look at, okay, Grover Stewart on the interior, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, Laiatu Latu, the 15th overall pick. They were getting after the Houston Texans. And I think for the Texans, they were saying, okay, we can't protect these. We can't protect CJ Stroud. So now we got to get into the quick game. Let's establish the run. That's why you see 30 carries with Joe Mixon, because they're trying to say, okay, if we can establish the run, we already can't pass protect right now. These guys will get after CJ Stroud. It's going to throw off the whole rhythm of the offense. Let's settle them down a bit. Let's force these defensive linemen to play the run first. And then once that happens, now CJ Stroud started to get into a rhythm. Now you see Stephon Diggs. He gets him his first touchdown as a Texan. Now you see Tank Dell. He starts to get acclimated into this game. That's when everything started to click. When Joe Mixon started to get into the football game. So for me, I think when I look at Joe Mixon in this offense, I think it's an upgrade from Devin Singletary. Now, Devin Singletary, he's very versatile, but adding a guy like Joe Mixon, we know, can get you over 1,000, can catch out of the backfield, and he pass protects a little bit too. We saw one of those pass protections where it's a linebacker coming in the gap, and he's just knocking him to the ground. So things like that, where you have a guy who can stay on the field all 3 downs, can run the football, can be a bell cow like he was in this game, and hopefully Dameon Pierce can come along, get back to form like we saw a couple of years ago, and you're looking at a dynamic running back duo. That's going to help CJ Stroud as he continues to develop and as this team looks to make a big time run this season. And then you go a few drives later, you look at Anthony Richardson. Like I said, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but having the misses right there to Adonai Mitchell, you could have went up with a big time touchdown, or at the worst case scenario, you're getting 3. A few plays later, has the interception to Caden Bullock. So I'm just looking at things like that, where it's, okay, I want you to have the big time plays like you had to Alec Pierce. I want you to push the ball down the football field. But we got to connect when we got the layups. You think about J.R. Smith, and this is one of the oddest comparisons, but I just think about it because J.R. Smith, in terms of basketball in the NBA, he was always the guy who can make a contested 3. But when it came down to, okay, make the layup, okay, make the wide open 3, we just saw what J.R. Smith was in those moments. He would miss a wide open layup. He would miss a wide open 3, but come back and hit a 3 in the face of 2 defenders. Anthony Richardson, you make the big time throw to Alec Pierce. He gets behind 2 defenders and you hit him right there, pinpoint accuracy on the money. It's a touchdown. Then you have Adonai Mitchell wide open and we don't connect right there. So I think just looking at that allows the Texans to get the football back and they get in the scoring drive, but they don't get a field goal because you had some things going on with the clock, and I think it was mismanagement really by the official crew because it looked like the Texans tried to spike the football, but the officials had the game clock running, and for the Texans, they're saying, okay, if we know the game clock is going to be running, we're going to try to spike the football. They don't allow them to get that off, then the game clock just runs out. D'Amico Ryans, he was furious. CJ Stroud, he was furious as well because that's the type of thing that can change a football game. Instead of going into the half 15-7, now we're up 12-7, even when we could have just brought out our kicker and had an easy field goal. But I think another thing we saw too is not just with the Texans offensive line not being able to protect, but for the Colts, they're sending loops and stunts. And you got to shout out Gus Bradley because he dialed up the perfect plays. And just looking at it, it's not easy when you're going against Bobby Slowick, one of the best offensive minds in football. So you got to shout out Gus Bradley for what he did in this game. But after they get the big time sack on CJ, they get a block punt. This puts the Colts in scoring position. Then you have a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. Now it's a 15-13 football game. The Colts, they miss on a 2-point conversion, but I want to talk about what happens after because things get a lot spicy in this football game. Now, the Texans, they go down, they score. But I want to talk about this because Kenny Moore almost has an interception on CJ Stroud, but the interception gets negated because he holds to get the interception. So now, instead of getting on 4th down for the Houston Texans, they get a break, they get the holding call, they get a 1st down. Now Joe Mixon runs it in for a touchdown. You're looking at a big-time lead by the Houston Texans. Then Anthony Richardson, he comes back out. He misses Adonai Mitchell again. And then he throws a 54-yard strike to Ashton Doolin. They go down and score to make it a 2-point football game. Texans are up 22-20. And like I said, it's just that roller coaster. We missed the throw to Adonai Mitchell. We had a touchdown to Alec Pierce. We missed another throw to Adonai Mitchell. We throw a strike to Ashton Doolin. It's just things like that where it's up and down, and it's up and down with Anthony Richardson, but he stayed resilient. But even as the Colts started to come back into this football game, the Texans weren't having none of it. They go down the football field. They start off a drive with a big big time end around to Tank Dell. Then you have them take a commanding lead after D'Amico Ryans makes a really, really gutsy call. He goes for it on fourth down. They convert. Now they're up 29-20, having the lead over the Colts late in the football game. But Anthony Richardson, once again showcasing his magic. He goes down. He makes a massive throw to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is down there somewhere. It was that type of game. And then after Anthony Richardson's big time throw, Shane Steichen gets a little gutsy as well. D'Amico Ryans went for it on fourth down. Shane Steichen said, okay, I'm going to one-up you. They go down the football field. They're in scoring territory. And a lot of people question Shane Steichen's thought process on this call. They had all 3 timeouts in their back pocket. So like I said, it's a 29-20 football game. If Shane Steichen takes the kick, now, okay, we got some time left on the clock. We're only down by 6 points. It'll be 29-23, and we have that deficit, and you still got your timeouts. He elected not to do that. He went for it on fourth down. They scored. They had all 3 timeouts still in their pocket, but the Texans get the football back, and then the Houston Texans just weren't having it. They were determined to win this football game on the day. Kenyon Green, because when we look at it, the Texans got the football back. They're trying to run all of the time off the clock, obviously. Kenyon Green gets a brutal false start on a 3rd and 6. So now you're looking at a 3rd and 11. Then CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, the combination that we talked about earlier in this football game, he makes a big time grab, and it's just one of those throws where if I'm the DB, what more could I do? There's nothing I can do for you right there. Coach is just that great of a throw. CJ Stroud, then Nico Collins, having the ability to get that knee down, understand, okay, let me haul it in, let me get my knee down. I'm not going to be able to get my toes, but it's a great, great catch. And we just look at a situation like that where big time players making big time plays, man. So understanding, okay, even with what the Colts had, when the Texans needed it, they kept the Colts off of the football field, and they had the good drive to seal out the football game. I really like this one. And I think when we look at these 2 quarterbacks, CJ Stroud being poised, making all of the throws that he needed to make when he had to make them, it's going to be a real interesting season for both of these teams. I want to know what you think down below in the comments. What did you think about this game? What do you think about these 2 quarterbacks and the futures of these 2 quarterbacks? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, we'll be back with some all 22 film real soon, talking about some of my favorite players and some of my favorite teams from NFL Week 1. So you won't want to miss that. But now, yeah.